Yo, what's good? I've been playing in this tournament called RBEL. This is the second edition of of the tournament, and I've been slotted into the Gen 6 Rambats format. And I really like the format. I really like how it plays out, and I think I'm pretty good at it. If I'm going to be honest. And so I wanted to sort of cover every week uh, all the Gen 6 games, including my own, just to sort of, I don't know, hopefully provide a little bit of insight on them and, maybe see what some people have done wrong if I can identify that, how they could have played better. Um, yeah, currently, um, as it stands, I think we're in week two of it, but I haven't covered week one yet. But we've gotten all the Gen 6 Rambats games done by what today is Wednesday, so very very quickly. So I'll probably cover those as well sometime soon. So yeah, but at the time of week one, I think pretty much everybody is tied up in this third place position um, with sort of Team Glalie unexpectedly dominating with a 9-3 win over Team Pidgeot. Um, yeah, I got these games loaded up right here. Oh, wrong ones. Whoops. Okay, so I'll start off with my own game because me and Seth, who's founding Gooner over here, which isn't is a sort of interesting nickname. Me and him were the first ones to play this week. I've been kind of uh, right fucking nowing all of my games, which has led to some mixed success over these past 2 weeks, which isn't a very large sample size, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I was the first one to play. Um, I play Gen 6 Rambats a lot. I like laddering the tier a lot. And so I think I took a little bit of a break from laddering after I had signed up for the tournament because I was kind of a little bit burnt out with it. I had made number one, but then I had finals and I just was on a very big losing streak, which sort of demotivated me just a little bit. But I got drafted, so I was like, okay, this will be dope, and I'll hopefully get back into it again, which I have. But yeah, so I'm a little bit. I want to say rusty, but I think it's more just. Um, it's more just I wasn't in the correct mindset while playing these. So yeah, you'll see what I mean as we watch this game play out. So yeah, he leads with a Meloetta here um, into my Breloom, and I'm like, this really isn't a good matchup for me. If it's Specs or Life Orb, I'd probably just drop in one. I would imagine. Um, let's see here. I'm pretty sure I would drop in one, or he could just hit a very strong neutral hyper voice without me really being able to do much back to him, right? So that's always a possibility. Um, but mentally in my mind, I keep note, hey, this could potentially be a pure wet Meloetta, which is pretty scary, and you'll see you'll see why later on. But he decides to double out into Quillfish, which I think may have indicated to me that this was pure wet at the time, but I'm not entirely sure. Um, but I mean, that's what it should have indicated to me, right? Because why would he switch out unless he didn't have really anything to threaten me super well with. So he switches out there. I don't think I really had a great switch into this. I had a good switch into the sort of specs or special life orb set in Soul Rock right here, which is why I went to it. And it would also cover maybe a singular relic song, and then I could sort of play from there. But we just straight hit hazards. I assume he went to this just to try and stop like a bullet seed from doing too much, although let's see here. Although I still do quite a fair amount. But I mean, he's faster than me, so he would be able to get up at least a toxic spike pretty easily. Which is pretty bad for my team. I don't. My only non-grounded from memory is this Soul Rock back here. So I'm not super loving that toxic spike. Of course, throw can take advantage of it, but it's not great. It's not amazing. So yeah, I go into throw here to just relatively tank because throw is pretty bulky in general. I think I'm knockoff circle throw. Yeah. So I just do great chip to this Quillfish, but it does get up a spike in return, which is again a little bit annoying. No. Okay, yeah. So I circle throw him out into his guard chomp, and I use that. I assume he'll probably set up a Swords Dance. I suppose he could have been. He could have been what? He could have been like special, but I don't think special kills me at this range. Yeah, like even physical barely picks up the KO, if at all. So yeah, Draco Meteor is definitely not killing. I assume it won't from Mega Chomp either. So because I'm at 38%. So yeah, I use this as an opportunity to get off a rest. But this thing is pretty threatening to me. I don't really want anything to take damage from this, but especially because he doesn't have to click Outrage right here, right? He can click Earthquake pretty easily, which is sort of what I was worried about, which is why I went Soul Rock, right? Because I have something in the back that can very easily handle this guard chomp if it is locked in to Outrage. And I'm forgetting what exactly my team composition is. I think I have a Gorbis in the back. I have, I think, an Umbreon as well, which I say, hey, Gorbis, obviously, Shell Smash Sweepers are very, very potent in this tier, especially if I have Stealth Rocks up. And then Umbreon can pretty well take advantage of maybe like a Choice Specs Meloetta, which is why I said, hey, Soul Rock isn't super useful, right? Its role is pretty much taken by the Umbreon in the back. And so I'm fine with stacking this, right? Because this is pretty useful still. It's just a general tank, and Breloom can wall break for me also pretty well. So there's no real reason for me to keep this around when I have something that does a similar role to it. So I stack to an Outrage, and then I'm able to very easily revenge kill it with Frostlass here because he's locked in. So yeah, I do just that. I'm a pretty useless set. I have no hazards, and I think I'm Taunt Destiny Bond, which isn't the worst, but I would definitely prefer T-Wave or just some form of hazard, just because hazards are insanely broken. I'm not entirely sure why it defaults to dual stab, but anyways, it does prove useful here as I'm able to deny Stealth Rocks coming up from this Gigalith, and then just go into throw very freely because he can't really do much to me unless he crits. But it's not a super big deal. I should be able to sleep off whatever damage he does relatively easily. So he goes into his Quillfish, which I am able to kill with Circle Throw. He comes into Azoth, which I'm able to switch Umbreon in pretty freely in on. And I'm not entirely sure. I think he specs, but I could be wrong. He could be Life Orb, but either way, I don't think he does too much to me with the Dazzling Gleam. But I could be wrong. Trace Mix this a lot, actually, but I have like, I don't know. I have something. Trust. Or if he does click that, I think Gorobus can come in pretty easily. Set up and win. Yeah. Because you only do like 50-ish, so it might be a little bit sketchy, but it's fine. So anyways, I'm able to come into my Umbreon pretty freely, and he goes into his Gigalith. I just wish up, and I think I go into Throw here, because there's really no reason not to. Oh, I go Breloom pretty offensively. Looking back on it, I kind of wish I'd gone Throw there, but, you know, whatever. But yeah, Breloom just threatens an Oko on this Gigalith. Depending on, you know, bullets, you'd look, but I get it, so that's fun. Now, he's in a pretty bad position here, right? I've got one unrevealed something, and then I got Umbreon, which potentially just walls his entire team. But he goes into Meloetta here. I don't really know what I was thinking at the time. Realistically, Frostlash should be a free switch into me. In for me, it covers Hyper Voice. Sure, I probably dropped to a Psyshock, but that's fine. I get an Umbreon for free after, or pretty much just Umbreon, but I get off a free Foul Play, which is always appreciative. But instead, I decide to go for a Mach Punch for 35%, because I'm like, you know, Breloom served its purpose. I don't really have a reason for it anymore. Lo and behold, I actually did have a very, very, very important purpose for it, which was revenge killing this Meloetta. But now it outspeeds my entire team and Oko's it with Rocks and Spike support. My only hope, I think I got a 50% roll to survive with Gorobus, but it's not in my favor. And he does get the roll here with Close Combat. I try to do a little bit of outplaying, trying to force him to click Knock Off, but really it doesn't matter at this point. I just lose the game. So, yeah. So, not a great showing, but, you know, it's whatever. Yeah, I misplayed, but I can definitely come back from this. And so, you know, I load up game 2, and he leads the Ox's attack, which I'm not super stoked to see. Because he doesn't know this, but I have literally 0 psychic resists on my entire team, and so I'm pretty much just like, shit. I'm fucked by this. I have really nothing I can do. I'd probably just lose this match, but maybe I can outplay. He switches out here, just scouting for a Shadow Sneak. Maybe it's Choice Band, although I assume probably non-Choice Band kills as well. Let's see. Yeah, it pretty much Oka's, or does very close to it, to the point where it would kill itself with Life Orb Recoil. But I'm not. I'm Haze, Brick Break, Poison Jab, Ice Punch, I think. So I switch out, obviously. I think, hey, Tropius kind of takes one. Not really, but, you know, maybe I can work something out once it's at -2. And so I go into it. He does that reactionary play. Goes into Steelix, which works for me, right? Tropius walls it pretty well. I think I kind of think I should have subbed again just to scout for maybe a Toxic, but he doesn't reveal it, so yeah. He also doesn't reveal Rock, so I assume he was Toxic. So yeah, I'm just able to do sort of Tropius things to the Steelix, protect sub, whatever, get my berry. And so I've been protect subbing for a while now. He's almost dead. So I think I click substitute here, if I'm not mistaken. I do. I catch him on the switch to Deoxys, and I'm just able to launch out an air slash for free into him, which is able to 2 KO the Steelix, which is very nice. So he goes into Ninetales, which again is very, 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 very scary for my team, because I don't think I have a single fire resistance either. So I'm like, ugh. Not great, not great. I switch out here. I don't really want to sack my Tropius for no reason. He takes advantage of that. He makes a very good play and just clicks Nasty Plot, expecting that. So I think, hey, maybe Muck can survive. I don't think I had my actual computer at the time, so I didn't have whatever the tooltip is called. So I was just sort of trying to head calc this. I know Muck is pretty tanky on the special side, so I think maybe it can survive one. I don't think I was on my regular computer at the time, so I didn't have access to the Rambats tooltip that usually pops up on the side here. So I think, maybe you can live one, but evidently it is not, and I don't get lucky enough to dodge. So a little bit unfortunate. However, I have probably to revenge kill. I don't think I killed with return at that point, which I can check. Yeah. No, don't revenge it if I'm Silk Scarf at all. So I was forced to go for the fake out there. What were you at? I guess yeah, but I didn't really desire to leave that up to chance at all, and sack my Progly, which looks like pretty much my only line of defense versus this Deoxys right here. So I click fake out. He has Tyranitar, but fortunately I do have Wake Up Slap on my Progly, so I'm able to get to a KO. That crit, it might have mattered a little bit. He's not able to come back into it at a later point, but it was still a 2 KO no matter what. So definitely a little bit unfortunate on his side, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it was too matterful. But that allows Deoxys' attack to come in pretty easily and just fire off a Psycho Boost. And so I switch into Illumise, sort of hoping that it's not Extreme Speed and that it's Ice Beam over Extreme Speed, because otherwise I'm just sort of fucked in this position. I will most likely live one Psycho Boost, so I can threaten a Thunder Wave, which, if it's not Extreme Speed, which it sort of reveals itself not to be. He goes for a really, really passive knockoff there, which I didn't understand whatsoever. That seems like very just not the play at all. Just because he's seen sort of my reaction towards Deoxys attack before. He knows that I've switched into Tropius. He's seen this and this, so I can't really rationalize why he would click knockoff over Psycho Boost, but whatever. So he clicks Psycho Boost, which does allow me to just sort of threaten a 2-wave, which I believe I do. No, I just hard double out, which is interesting. I go into Wigglytuff. I guess expecting that Extreme Speed at that point. So I think Wigglytuff had a decent chance at living, but I'm not going to calc it right now. So anyways, I go into Wigglytuff. I'm a pretty useless set of like D-Gleam knockoff Thunderwave Heal Bell. So I just click T-Wave here. I say, hey, or maybe I'm Thunderwave 3 attacks with Fire Blast. I think that sounds right. So I T-Wave it. Just try and neuter it for later. The Ninetales, that is. Then I click Knockoff. And then I click D-Gleam. Again, I feel like this might show that I wasn't particularly in it at the time, because Fire Blast would have just killed. But whatever. Again, that sort of did facilitate Deoxys' attack to come in, so we'll just say it's planned at this point, right? So I'm able to get into Illumise, which again threatens Deoxys with that Thunder Wave, which I assume it's not E-Speed at this point from the way that he played it. He goes into Mew. I'm really worried that this is like a Fire Blast, right? Which would really just ruin my day. I think it does like 75%, but I say, hey, I can scout it once and then sack Illumise if it is Fire Blast. So I click Roost here, and he reveals Zen Headbutt, and I'm like, okay, that's great. Zen Headbutt, Life Orb, that means I can just Roost forever. Then he goes into Dodrio, and I'm like, not great. My team doesn't super like switching into this. It's got just enough bulk to probably survive pretty much any one attack I try and throw at it. And I certainly can't sack Illumise at this point, right? It does well into this Mew. It was this Mew, and it threatens this Deoxys massively. So I decide to sack Amoonguss, because really, what is it doing in this matchup besides dying in one? So I'm Rocky Helmet, which is nice. It means that this Dodrio takes some additional chip on top of the 44%, on top of the 10%. So it's lost like 2/3 of itself off of one attack, which is great. I can come in with Prugly and very easily revenge it with Return, which I do. But I do just barely not enough damage, which is not great, right? I can't sack this. That would just be sort of, it would throw me the game immediately, right? Because I need that fake out pressure into Deoxys in order to win. So I think I go Illumise here, which he calls very well and doubles into Dodrio. And, I can't stay in here. At this point, what is Tropius doing, right? So by Tropius, you've served your role, and the Dodrio will die to recoil damage at this point. Now, I think I rationalized that Purugly was better here, right? Because it'll fake out into Return either of these and do well. So I go into Purugly. Again, I have that fake out pressure, which is what I click. I think that was a pretty fortunate roll, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that was like a very, very high roll. Not the highest it could have been, but it did enough to bring it into Life Orb recoil range, which is what I was hoping for. So it dies to Life Orb recoil, and then at this point, Illumise just wins, right? I can click Bug Buzz and Roost until this Mew dies to Life Orb recoil or Bug Buzz. And so I should win this, right? At this point, it's unlosable. But I don't like to take the easy way out, right? I like a little bit of challenge in my life. So I click Thunder Wave here, which was not the play ever, because Mew has this ability called Synchronize, which of course shares the status. Whatever status you give Mew, it reflects right back. So now I'm in a little bit of a tricky situation, right? Because I have to stall out 5 turns against this Mew. I have to get lucky enough for at least 5 turns in order to not...
I'm trying to riz you up with someone right now, by the way, from Grant.
Thanks.
Actually thinks?
Yeah? Who is that? Who is it?
Okay, so basically, it's Ace's older sister's friend. Because we were talking about you. And she's a junior too, so she has junior friends from Grant, right? So I'm actually putting you on junior this time and not. Would you be down for an Indian girl? Like a pretty Indian girl?
I literally don't care.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I said you were like desperate.
Wow, thanks. I appreciate it.
Okay, that's
Did you actually say that?
No.
Okay.
I just said you really want a girlfriend, and I think that'd be great for you to have a girlfriend. And she said her friends like literally been wanting a boyfriend for like a while. But would you be chill with that?
Sure.
She's like cute.
Okay.
But she's an Indian.
Hi, buddy. Hi. What are you doing with your mouth? It's weird, baby. That's weird. It's so weird, Rascal. Can you take him for a walk? Lily. Lily. Walk. He wants to go on a walk, Lily. Take your dog for a walk.
Why? I thought you already said you
I did.
That's
Oh my god, I'm literally the only person who takes him for a walk. What was I saying? Yeah, so I throw the game here, or I potentially throw the game here. We're not gonna reveal anything yet. But I have to get lucky enough to either hit a bug buzz through paralysis plus flinch chance in Zen headbutt, or I have to just be able to roost off the damage until he dies from life orb recoil, which is not super impossible, but it's also not super probable with paralysis. So I realized my error pretty quickly. I think my team cord was saying, what the fuck is Soups doing, right? Not the play at all. My play was definitely to just bug buzz there. And so he hits the first Zen headbutt. And he's at, I got 4 turns left. I'm able to get off the roost, and he misses the Zen headbutt, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I should be able to win this. We get double paralyzed, which doesn't really do anything. I get paralyzed again, which I think I probably just clicked roost there. I'm able to knock you paralyzed the next turn, right? So now I have 2 turns left until I win. I'm able to get off another roost. He hits another Zen headbutt. And so, last turn, I either win or I lose. And I get paralyzed. So, yeah, kind of a sad showing for me. Round 1. Realistically, I probably should have won both of these games. You can see I'm sort of like, not super happy with that. But yeah, realistically, both of these games should have been won by me. But, I'm getting back into the flow. I'm getting back into my sort of rhythm. But good job on Seth for sort of, playing around that. But I would like to say that my teams were absolutely, maybe not this one. My team is all right-ish, round 1. But round 2, or game 2, holy, this is like the most ass-cheeks team of all time versus like just threat on threat on threat on threat on threat, 2 of which I literally have no resistance to. So I'm happy that I was able to make this game as close as I did. I should have won it, but, it's whatever. And so now I'll move on to the next sort of grouping, which is Zoyot versus Avarice. And I don't know a ton about either of these players. I think Avarice is pretty well known, just sort of generally. He's a pretty great player. I think this is like a monotype avatar here. And yeah, I don't know a ton about Zoyot either, but I don't know. He seems pretty good. I think he's, as of week 2, undefeated. 2-0. Just sort of ignore those win-loss ratios. But yeah, so this is a pretty good game, or a pretty good set. I would imagine. So yeah, I guess he starts off with X-Pod versus Basculin. I would imagine he probably switches out Basculin here. I wouldn't really want to stay in on like a potential Scarf Boom Burst, which I would imagine Oko's X-Pod is pretty decently. I mean, it's not super strong, but Boom Burst sort of covers for that. Okay, it wouldn't Oko, but yeah, okay. I'm not sure then. We'll see. We'll see. So he switches out to Starmie, which good play on his part. You know, it covers maybe a Waterfall as a mid-ground play, or that superpower that did come out, and that he can. All right, so he's either Life Orb or Choice Specs, and he's Analytic. So this is about to do quite a bit of damage if he had hit. So he doesn't reveal whether or not he has recovered yet, which is interesting. He has a pretty fast team. Just looking at it, I guess they both do. But yeah, Emolga is all right. Threatens this, obviously. Maybe it's U-turn. But yeah, it is. He clicks Acro there, which I think is fine. This is really not. Doublade really isn't very specially bulky, even with Eviolite, so that Thunderbolt does do a whole lot to it. As it decides to Sword Stance up, maybe try and, just break. But I don't think that was a great play, to be honest. Right? He's got X-Cloud here, which can catch a Shadow Claw, and it can obviously tank an Iron Head as well at this point. Probably even a Sacred Sword pretty easily, and then fire back with like a Fire Blast or Surfer, even a Boom Burst, right? Because it'll still hit it for something with Scrappy, but yeah, I guess it's sort of, I won't say blanks, but definitely doesn't do quite as well into AV Mian Chao. But he reveals Furfro, which obviously just completely walls it, and he isn't even Shadow Claw, right? Which does reveal Sacred Sword, which, yeah, I don't really understand why he would Sword Stance up and not just click. I guess I understand the Shadow Sneak, but I don't know. I just don't think Sword Stance was super necessary there. Just go for damage. Or don't even go into this at this point, you know. Yeah. Oh, sorry. He reveals Furfro, which just walls Doublade forever with Fur Coat. Probably takes like maybe 30 from a Sacred Sword. Maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe I'm under-exaggerating, but that's just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. Yeah, like 30. So I don't know if this was at the point where they got rid of Dark Pearls on Furfro, but that's definitely something that could be being threatened here. Although, of course, I'm not for sure. I would imagine not, by the way that Doublade just stayed in. But now he could probably be rather confident that he's clicking Iron Head here. Or Sacred Sword, because he did just oh my god. Word vomit. He did just show Sacred Sword, so Miss Magius does cover that, yes. And this probably takes like 80, 90 maybe from the Shadow Sneak, but it definitely doesn't die, yeah. So he's able to revenge that with Miss Magius. It reveals Leftovers, which maybe it's threatening like D-Bond here, or it could threaten Destiny Bond in the future, but I imagine he just goes into Starmie at this point. Oh, he has the LaPra, which also works just fine. Links this for the most part, and yeah. So he's able to just get off the Toxic on this Mian Chao. He is Protect, which works pretty good here, and he really can't like click. He can never, I mean he can, but it's pretty ballsy to click High Jump Kick when he has a Miss Magius sitting in the back. So yeah, that was a. He's got a pretty decent matchup in the sort of core that he has right now. And Imogul also just switches in because it is running no item to boost acrobatics, which. Yeah, and so he's nuzzle over maybe like a U-turn or, he can be a whole sort of, it can be a number of things that he could be running otherwise. But he is nuzzle here, which works great up against this Basculin, just sort of really neuters its potential power into this team. Although Imogul does take pretty hefty chip from an Akudret. And allows Mienshao back in just to finish it off with a fake out. But he decides to go to Furfra, which is decent. He's Resto Chesto at this point, which I imagine was revealed because it is no. Because it's U-turn. Okay. So, yeah, this probably takes maybe like 45 from a high jump kick. Maybe I'm under exaggerating again. Maybe it's more like 50, 60, but it shouldn't be taking too much, right? And it very easily 2 KOs with a return. So, let's see. He just clicks U-turn, which is fair. He goes into Yan Mega, which could be a whole number of things. Maybe I sack Emolga here, although it does look pretty good into Yan Mega and Mienshao. I'd probably just go Lapras. Or, yeah, that also works. That's fine. And he does get pretty lucky there. With the paralysis, you probably would have taken, 60-70% from Choice Specs Yan Mega. Bug Buzz is what I would assume came out there. Yeah, only 50 to 60, so not too much, but definitely significant. And he just forfeits from that position, which, we don't know what his last 2 were, but yeah, paralysis does that sometimes. It's annoying for sure, but you just gotta carry on. But yeah, this X-Cloud looks very, very threatening against a relatively low Mienshao and just sort of the supportive core he has to remove any sort of threat that either of these could pose, right? Because at this point, he 2-hit KOs Yan Mega with return. I would imagine the thing Furfro is decently strong, and then he can just get a rest up on this Mienshao. So, yeah, again, we don't know what his last 2 were, but Zoyot looks like he was in a pretty dominant position there. I don't really know what Avarice could have done about that, except maybe just tried to play Doublade, or tried not to just sort of send his Doublade out into a rather poor matchup at that point, right? Maybe try and whittle down this X-Cloud, or maybe I'm not entirely sure, but definitely could have played it a little bit more patiently and methodically. But let's just move on to game 2. He gets Sticky Web lead, which is great, versus Sawsbuck, which is pretty fast, so hopefully he has something outspeeding this in the back. He just sets up Sticky Webs, which is completely fair. He goes into Crobat here, deciding to preserve his Ariados, which I guess is fine, right? You probably threaten an Oko with Brave Bird on the Sawsbuck, so if it switches out, it's sorry. It's severely less threatening, right? Because it's got that sort of it's just much slower. So yeah, I think that's fair. Zoyot has a Klefki, which is pretty good, right? He can set up spikes. If he has a ground type, he can probably just it depends on if he's Magnet Rise or Dazzling Gleam Foul Play, but either way, Yeah, I'm not sure. He clicks Thunder Wave there, which is fair. Just try and make sure that this Crobat doesn't do anything to, or just try to punish maybe a greedy Crobat. So, yeah, he goes into Ariados. He sets up a Toxic Spike, which is fair. He goes back into Crobat, which, yeah, I guess is fair. Just keep your sacks for as long as possible. And, yeah, he's able to get up a T-Spike pretty easily. I don't know what the rest of Avarice's team is at this point, but I would probably not go into Ariados at this point if I had anything else that switched into this decently easily, which, yeah, Licky works, right? It doesn't super care about its speed. It could be like Heal Bell Wish Tech, which does, it pretty much wants it, but it doesn't do a ton of damage back with Body Slam, so it's probably like, maybe it's AV, but I would assume it's probably like this sort of bulky leftover set with like Earthquake at this point. But Zoya reveals probably Mega Beedrill, if I were to assume. Yeah, which is pretty great against his team as of right now, right? It outspeeds Licky even after webs, so he's able to just get a free U-turn after this turn and do a pretty decent chip in return. He does a real Body Slam, so it appears that he is AV Pivot, which is not the set that you probably want in this scenario. You would much prefer to be like maybe Swords Dance with leftovers. He has X-Splat this time, which, if it specs, is probably really great. It's only outsped by Beedrill, I would imagine, as of right now. And you're just able to really hammer out those specs boosted boom bursts. If it is specs, of course. If it's Scarf, it's a little bit worse, but still decent. But he has to switch out here, obviously. You don't want to be taking the Thunder Wave from Klefki, which Licky absorbs pretty easily. He does reveal Magnet Rise, which is able to pretty easily just wall Licky forever. Maybe he's knockoff, which would be useful. He does get paralyzed there, which is a little bit unfortunate, but realistically, Klefki is getting up all of its layers either way. And so Avarice just sort of decides to just sack his Licky. Because right, he doesn't really want anything else getting paralyzed at this point. And Licky isn't doing like exceptionally well into anything, especially when paralyzed. So I think that's fair. And you're able to get decent chip on this Klefki in return. Probably a fair bit more if you hadn't gotten paralyzed quite as much, but it is what it is. It's interesting. So this is definitely Scarf from that damage. I don't really know. I guess Klefki walls his Crobat pretty well, but yeah, I guess that's fair then. So yeah, he sacks Sawsbuck. Probably, like I was saying, probably just trying to preserve this Klefki to hopefully get off a T-Wave on this Crobat. And Avarice switches out there just to probably try and play around maybe missing a Fire Blast, which would be pretty devastating for him. Especially when Crobat, and he reveals Linoon, which probably means this game is over. Unless he's like Taunt Crobat, which he is not. So, but he reveals Relicanth. But, does this have speed? I don't think it does, right? So I think that was a fine switch in. Does he miss like a Head Smash or something? No, he doesn't. Okay, so he pretty, Avarice is able to play around the Linoon, which would be very, 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 very threatening if it were able to get that up without webs being up, right? It kills this with Seed Bomb. It kills this with spike support plus E-speed. This is already dead pretty much. This is already dead pretty much. So, yeah, very fortunate there that he did roll webs. And so Relicanth is able to pick up the KO with a head smash, which I assume Zoya was just trying to... Right, like once you belly drum with Lightning, there's no real point in keeping it alive. He was maybe hoping for a head smash miss, which is why he didn't just click E-speed there for the chip. And so Relicanth is able to get a little bit more chip with head smash. He's able to set up rocks. Zoyot's able to set up rocks with Seismitoad just to really keep up the pressure on this Crobat and just further weaken Avarice's team. Right, because now he can't switch an area dose at all, which, I mean, doesn't really matter, right? It wasn't doing anything anyways, but yeah. You know, it's not super, super important, but really it stops this Crobat from being, from having any sort of longevity, which Beedrill takes advantage of pretty well. So Avarice switches in Exploud just to pick up the KO with Boom Burst. Oh, and he reveals Volcarona, which is pretty devastating. Because right now Avarice has to say, okay, I either stay in with Exploud, maybe do 60-ish with Boom Burst, and then this sets up and just wins, or I can go into Crobat, which maybe kills Volcarona in one. Although I'm a little bit doubtful. No, it does kill Volcarona in one, right? So he has to decide whether or not he wants to double out into, or it's not a double, just switch out into Crobat, and then, you know, risk just getting hit by a Fiery Dance or a Fire Blast or a whatever and just losing the game on the spot. Or if he wants to just stay in and click Boom Burst, catching the Fire Blast or whatever Zoya decides to go for here. I think personally, I would probably... No, what am I talking about? You just go Area Dose here. You sack Area Dose, which covers for anything, right? He sets up a Quiver Dance, which, duh. So now the question is, do you want to click Roost with your Crobat, predicting him to switch out into Klefki, or do you click Brave Bird, expecting him to think, you know, it's just mind games at this point, right? So he either stays in and clicks Brave Bird, and then this probably dies too. So it's a question of whether his last can beat Beedrill and Klefki, which he doesn't really have a choice at this point, right? So he goes Exploud, which does actually tank the hazards and is able to kill the Klefki. But he reveals Mega Blaziken as his last, which I assume... Is this at speed at -1? There's no way, right? I mean, obviously it doesn't, right? Avarice lost there, so... Wow, really? Sorry, it's a little bit surprising to me. Yeah, 159. And he's not Protect, which is kind of annoying. I think they just changed it so that it always has to be Protect, which I think is much better because Blaziken, especially Mega Blaziken with no Protect, just seems kind of frail and very hard to get up like a Sword Stance with before sweeping. But if it is able to get up that Protect into whatever, it hits like an absolute truck. But obviously he wasn't Protect here, and so he's just dropping to a drill run. And so Zoya picks up the dub, and yeah, 2-0's Avarice. But, you know, Valiant Effort, he had a pretty shitty matchup with, you know, no real... no hazard removal, pretty shitty pretty shitty switch into rocks as well. Just very, very hard for him to get any real footing there, especially when he revealed Volker on his last. So, valiant effort, but sadly, not all matchups can go our way. But, yeah. So, next is Dr. Mirbrow, which I'm not really sure who he is, but I think he played last year in last RBEL. I'd have to check. Let's see. Only 3 teams last time. Yeah, he played last RBEL as well as Seth, so that's pretty cool. But he's playing against Zowie Cafe, who I guess I more colloquially know as Hounds of Fate. I played them against them on ladder plenty of times, so personally, I'm rooting for Zowie or Hounds here, but I'm sure it'll be a good game either way. I know Zowie's great, and obviously Dr. Mirbrow has sort of proved his worth in a medal from last RBEL. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good game. We lead with Gorgeist Super versus Starmie, which just means it has a lot more HP and is not quite as fast. Or significantly slower, actually. But this is a pretty great matchup, all things considered. It is Life Orb, but really, I don't think you'll be taking that much from an Ice Beam, and so you probably can just Wisp for free here. That's interesting. That's not what I would have done, but, whatever. I mean, right? You can't be taking that much. Yeah, you take like 50, which I think is probably fine. Yeah, but he reveals Pavilion, or Vivillon, whatever, which is, just a general threat, pretty accurate sleep powder, and then it can just QD up and try and win games. He decides to sleep sack Clefable, which maybe is unaware here, and I'm assuming it is by the way he's playing it. So it's not really concerned with this thing setting up. But it is pretty weak to this Raikou right here, especially if it's choice specs. So he switches into Hydreigon just to try and catch maybe a Volt Switch or a Thunderbolt. But it reveals that it's Calm Mind, which is interesting to me because I would imagine you would... I don't know. Maybe he was sort of feigning himself being Specs there, but I would imagine you would, yeah, Specs threatens a pretty easy 2-hit KO against it, or 3 KO, I suppose, but, oh wait, no, it wins leftovers. But Calm Mind does not beat it very easily at all. So yeah, he goes into Hydreigon to try and catch a Thunderbolt or a Volt Switch. He stays in, I would imagine, to U-turn out, but he gets sniped by a critical hit Aura Sphere, which does quite a bit. So he was obviously, not choice specs. But he also gets like a super, super insanely high roll there. Like that should really never kill. So pretty unfortunate there. Maybe it's not unaware the way he's playing it. I would imagine he would have gone in at this point, but he's clearly, or they're clearly apprehensive to it. But they decide, Zowie decides to go Victory Bell just to threaten big damage with the Power Whip. Probably take like 50-60 from Hidden Power and Ice. So it's a very 1-for-1 type deal. You probably do like 80-90 with Power Whip if it hits. Oh, that's a lot less than oh, but he returns the crit with another crit and is able to pick up the Raikou very easily. Let's see here. Yeah. So that crit was definitely pretty important, but like worst comes to worst, you probably can revenge kill with a Shadow Sneak. So they go Pavilion, Dr. Mirbro does, and just clicks Hurricane. I kind of would imagine that Clefable would be able to eat a couple, but apparently not the way Zowie is playing it. They go into Delibird, which is pretty useless, all things considered, but it works fine enough here. Freeze Dry. But they probably just set up a spike here. I don't see why you wouldn't. But apparently I'm bad, but they're better because they get a freeze on the Meowstic, which is very, very fortunate. However, that's not very fortunate. The immediate Thaw and Greed with a spike. Yeah, so Zowie goes Gourgeist just to try to recover their position, which was sort of looked to be better with that freeze right there, but is now significantly worse without it. But they go Gourgeist. I think they probably kill, or at least kill plus Life Orb chip this Meowstic. And they don't take much in return from Psyshock. This Gourgeist probably just drops to a Dark Pulse at this point. Oh, that did much, much less than I would have imagined. And so Meowstic is able to trade with this Gourgeist. Zowie goes Delibird, probably just to get up another spike. I would maybe be a little bit scared of Thunderbolt here, but they aren't. So, good on them. They're just going to get revenged by Starmie at this point, which will pretty much just nuke everything and anything. They reveal Shell Smash Barbaracle as last, which is pretty threatening with 2 spikes up. So I guess we'll see whether or not it's able to go the distance. Yeah. Hits a Stone Edge. And they reveal Electros, so very, very unlikely. Yeah. So I guess now we're seeing if maybe Calm Mind Clef can win the game. But appears to not be so. Yeah. Oh, no, it is Unaware Clef. So, yeah, hopefully just get some good luck with no Confusion procs. And yeah, but that doesn't look to be the case here. And they will, I assume, just lose this Pavilion clicking Hurricane. Oh, they get a 1-turn wake up, but they get hit in Confusion. So very positive hacks on Mirbro's side there for this first game. So game 2, Zowie leads Machamp into Lapras, which is pretty much the best matchup you can ask for. Just very free Dynamic Punch right off the bat. Zowie clicks Knockoff, maybe to scout for a Ghost type, which I suppose is fair. I probably would have done it. I'm pretty greedy, all things considered. And Confusion is pretty broken with a 100 base power move backing it up. Yeah, and so, oh my god. Lapras really ate that for breakfast. And probably wins this exchange at this point. So Zowie's just going 1-for-1 with Mirbro here. Oh, no, it is able to survive the exchange, maybe get off one more Mach Punch or Bullet Punch versus this Uxie. But Zowie decides to maybe greed a knockoff versus maybe a Rocks from Mirbro. But it doesn't happen. And so now Zowie brings out a Escavalier on this Uxie, threatening a Mega Horn or a Pursuit. And he just decides to go for Pursuit here, but Mirbro reads that pretty easily. Just clicks Knockoff just to sort of dampen the damage done. And then switches out, which I feel like Zowie probably should have caught that. it seems pretty obvious to me at that point, right? Like, you aren't really doing anything in return. You've already revealed that you're probably not Stealth Rock, and this Cavalier doesn't really care about Thunder Wave or Toxic. Maybe Yawn would be annoying, but, you know, all things considered, not too threatening to you. So, me personally, I would have clicked Pursuit again, but, you know, Mega Horn is still going to do pretty nuclear damage to anything. Yeah, 47 to Miltank, which is pretty impressive. But, they get very lucky with a crit on that Miltank to pick it up. Ampharos comes in, which could be pretty threatening, especially if it's Mega. It's really high base power discharges coming from it, oh my god, sorry, I cannot speak right now. Whis Cash switches into very, very well. Maybe this is offensive with D-Dance. It doesn't really matter. At this point, I would probably prefer like a bulky variant with Toxic and Protect. But that's just me. Yeah, so catches the T-Bolt. It is that sort of bulkier variant, so he's able to get up a Toxic pretty easily. Or not. I think Zowie is playing this game a little bit too precautiously. Or a little bit too, like, single-mindedly, just sort of focusing on what is in front of them. Yeah, right, because there's no real reason not to Toxic there. You make progress on Ampharos, you can Protect, get lefties back. And Toxic on this Uxie will be pretty invaluable. This thing is decently bulky and can sort of just regenerate health with leftovers over the course of a game. Now that becomes a little bit harder. Yeah, just go into S Cavalier here. And Zowie decides to sleep sack it, which I'm not entirely sure was the best play there. But to be honest, looking at the matchup right now, this Wigglytuff does extremely well into Mirbra's team, especially if it is knockoff, which it does reveal to be, which completely pretty finely sort of screws up this Uxie's plan for longevity. So I guess maybe not clicking Toxic was fine there. I still think it would have been a better play than just Earthquaking, but, you know, what do I know? So this Wigglytuff is looking pretty threatening. It pretty easily tanks anything Selgor wants to throw at it. It speeds and kills Ampharos with a Dazzling Gleam and clearly knocks off this Uxie for pretty big damage. They trade knocks, though, which is interesting. Wigglytuff seems to just be wanting to kill this Uxie, but it does reveal it to be Wish Tech, which I'm not sure what the last is, but probably just wins the game from here. I don't really see how Mirbra's team can break it. It's a little bit too bulky and just has a little bit too good of a matchup into his team. Right, Selgor's Focus Blast is just bouncing off Wigglytuff here. A little bit of a misplay earlier with knockoff into Selgor with Sticky Hold, but really it doesn't matter that much. At this point, it's 4 against 2, unless he has like Slurp Up in the back. It should be a pretty easy win, but we'll see. He makes a very mindful play here. Zowie makes a very mindful play here, going into Drifblim. It'll eat anything that a Selgor wants to click very easily. The Selgor dies just from Life Orb recoil, and you're able to get up a sub, Will-O-Wisp, Hex, do whatever you want, and outspeed whatever might come in. So very mindful play there, and this just wins very easily at this point. Just sub, Hex, Acro, whatever. Double crit, but again, it doesn't matter at this point. Yeah, so Zowie wins game 2, and is able to sort of pull in the reins with really what kind of looks like a pretty shit team, but it had a very great matchup into Mirbra's sort of ensemble here. And so on to game 3. We got Zowie versus Mirbro once more, which obviously duh. Gorbis lead into Azumarill, which is not the greatest, but I mean, what? Ozzy probably does like. I stopped recording and forgot to start recording again after explaining the rest of this game, so I'll try and sort of speed run this. I think I was talking about this calc last I paused, so this is like 70% with the play rough, but just sort of scouting whether it's banded or citrus berry with Aggron here is a great play, especially because you resisted after mega evolving as well. Wormadam pretty easily walls this, especially with Intimidate support from Luxray. Gets up rocks. Shedinja is pretty useless. Misses a Will-O-Wisp. And then dies to Toxic. Houndoom comes in, gets pretty lucky with a burn off of Fire Blast, and then is able to pick up the KO with a Sludge Wave, although not before taking pretty heavy chip from Aqua Jet, which puts it very low, only able to really switch in once more after Rock Strip once more. I think personally you probably should have saved it, especially seeing as Weavile comes in here. It's probably not clicking Pursuit. You have a pretty sweet free switch into Aggron, but Zowie just decides to sack, which it's whatever. I think it would have been better just to get that little extra chip on maybe a Luxray. But Aggron comes in, is pretty easily walled by Wormadam here, but does get potential leeway later on in the game with paralysis hacks, but again, pretty much walled. Soul Rock switches in here, expecting the Earthquake, which Aggron does go for, and threatens a Will-O-Wisp, which would be pretty bad for Aggron to pick up. So Zowie switches into Meowstic, which does dodge the first Will-O-Wisp, but again, that sort of Mirbro makes a great double here, forcing in the Meowstic once more, and is able to get that Will-O-Wisp, which just really screws over this Meowstic, who is then picked up by Wormadam. So Zowie's in a pretty bad position here. Big Omega Aggron, click Earthquake into Heavy Slam to pick up the Wormadam. But at this point, it's looking pretty bleak, right? Soul Rock should get a Willow for free here. But Zowie has a Huntail in the back. At this point, the entire team is just picked off by Luxray, which great play from Mirbro here, taking the initiative and switching into Luxray, which has a great matchup into Gorbis and just denies it from coming in. But yeah, both of these are picked off by Wild Charge at this point. But personally, I think you probably should have switched in Huntail on the Soul Rock Will-O-Wisp and just try to get as much damage off on this Luxray as possible to try and allow Gorbis to maybe sweep late game. So yeah, Zowie goes. Mirbro wins 2-1, which good on him, or them, or her. Yeah, and before I forget, once again, I am playing for Team Sableye. Seth, or Founding Gooner over here, is playing for Team Venusaur. Zoyote is the T-Tars. Avarice is playing for the Mawwiles. Zowie is playing for Pultz. And Mirbro is playing for... I got this. I can remember. I guess I can't. Kangaskhan's. Duh. Okay, and so on to our last battle, we have Gay Cat Girl Kami versus Unzips Kroger. And Gay Cat Girl Kami is playing for the Pidgeots, while Kroger is playing for Team Glalie. And so we see a Zern lead into Superior, which is not great. Superior probably does pretty hefty damage with the Leaf Storm, I would assume around 50%. And the Contrary Boost is able to offset the any like gain that Xerneas might get in the SPDEF stat. But it also threatens a glare, which Xerneas really does not want to pick up, or doesn't really want to be hit by. So Ho comes in, which I guess is fine, right? It's relatively slow. It forces his superior out, and is able to get off a free, theoretically free Sacred Fire, but gets unluckily paralyzed, which doesn't even allow for like the possibility of a Sacred Fire burn to happen. So Gorgai switches in on this Marowak and is able to very easily absorb the Earthquake and threaten it out with a Will-O-Wisp. So now Superior comes in. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe just threatening Leaf Storm into Hidden Power Fire, or Leaf Storm into Hidden Power. No, it can't run Hidden Power Rock. So I don't really understand the Superior switch. Ho comes in pretty easily and just eats whatever and is able to fire off a Sacred Fire once more. I don't know why Unzips Kroger is just hard switching in Marowak versus Ho-Oh. That seems really, really like it's like asking for you to get burned by Sacred Fire. But you know, apparently he's in talks with RNGesus and is able to not get hit either turn by Ho-Oh. So same play happens. Gorgeist comes in. I assume Marowak knocks here. Goes for Stone Edge. Also does quite a lot of damage. Should again threaten out Marowak for threat of a burn, but Gorgeist is just able to synthesize up, which is a pretty great. I don't know. I mean, Gaycat Kurogami is just in a very superior position right now. But Mienshao comes in, reading the switch to Ho-Oh and threatening a Stone Edge here. But again, Gorgeist kind of just walls forever, even with maybe a knockoff coming here. It's just really too tanky to be hurt much at all. I don't know why this Reuniclus didn't come out sooner. Maybe it has to be recovered. So yeah, I don't really understand. This Bisharp is probably not Pursuit then, because I would imagine you'd go for it if you had it, although maybe you're worried about Focus Blast, so I guess it works. Again, Gorgeist is able to very freely switch in on this Mienshao. Out comes Reuniclus once more. I don't know. I probably agree to Shadow Sneak here for shits and giggles. Or Seed Bomb. They both did the same thing. Which also scouts Focus Blast from this Reuniclus. Yeah, which is fine. Fion comes out, just kind of a mid-ground play, covering both Psyshock and maybe another Focus Blast, as well as just threatening knock onto this Reuniclus, which will still do pretty decent damage. Oh no. Just, okay, so that's why he was pretty fine going Ho-Oh then. Because he has Heal Bell Fion in the back, which, yeah, pretty great for him. U-turn comes out. Do we see Bisharp here? Oh, Bisharp is read by Kroger and just drops to a Focus Blast, which was a great play. But Mega Metagross comes out to do just so much damage with Tough Blast Meteor Mash. Doesn't get the doesn't get the boost there, which means let's see, where was I? Oh, too far forward. Which means that Marowak is able to most likely, I would assume, live one more. Let's see. Yeah, Marowak is always able to live 2 there, so yeah. Medgross is forced to switch out. Gorgeist gets crit by the Earthquake, but it doesn't super matter. I don't think Seed Bomb was to play there. You should probably always just click Synthesis. I don't really see a reason why not to. But Gorgeist now gets paralyzed, but is able to get off the Synthesis and kill with Shadow Sneak if it had hit. Unfortunately, it didn't. Kroger, for some reason, glares again. I don't think that was the play. I think you just, I don't know, HP Fire or Leaf Storm. Although it doesn't really matter. No, I did like glare, actually. That was a pretty good play, right? Because it covers for the potential Ho-Oh switch for exactly what I was thinking of. So, yeah. Isn't successful for him, though. So, whatever. Articuno comes out trying to PP stall this Ho-Oh. Metagross is able to switch on to Toxic and just generally wall Articuno as well. But we'll probably just... Oh, no, we won't. So, yeah, I don't know. This Metagross looks like it probably just wins at this point, especially if it's an attack raise. Oh, Crystal comes out, which could be scary, but to be honest, I think Metagross probably eats one pretty easily, and Fiona definitely does. So I'm not too worried about, I guess, GCC's position here. I still kind of think Metagross just wins at this point. So I guess we'll see. Yeah, like I said, pretty easily tanks one, kills with a Meteor Mash. He is forced out by this Mienshao now, but it doesn't really matter. Ho-Oh just walls and is able to just Brave Bird and Sacred Fire till the cows come home, I think is the terminology, but I might be wrong. Oh, actually, this might be interesting, right? Because Articuno should theoretically be able to take on these three. Let's see. Oh my god. Oh, that's unfortunate. I think Kroger should have won here. For sure, but gets unluckily crit by Moonblast. Which means that it cannot sub up anymore. So, a little bit of hacks there. But, yeah, let's just look at game 2. We got Jumpluff into Glade, which is a very favorable lead for Kroger. Maybe he gets a sub up. Maybe he just goes hard Acro or gets off a leech. I don't know. Doesn't super matter. Useless fucking Lovedus comes in just to take damage as it should. And be sort of useless. Protect Substall. Yeah. But Electrode will be able to just Volt Switch out for free. GCC's team seems kind of shit at the moment. But that Fire Blast is pretty. Fire Blast miss is pretty advantageous for Kroger because now he can just start that sort of leech protect change that Tropius is pretty infamous for. So let's see. Just sort of playing around leech protect for a little while. Decides to go for acrobatics just to make sure that Typhlosion can't click eruption anymore, which I think is fair. I'm kind of thinking that's Scarf, right? Because I feel like I'm pretty sure that's Scarf. It feels like a little bit too low for specs. So Delcatty comes out, just clicks Fake Out, does sort of the I don't know. There are a lot of normal types within the tier that sort of do this Fake Out plus strong normal stab. But I think Delcatty is probably the worst of them all. So, whatever. It probably just kills with a double edge at this point. Lacking a burn, which it does get. Yeah. Let's see here. Typhlosion comes out. Clicks Fire Blast, which again I think is indicative of it being Scarf. Which should be able to outspeed this Electrode. Yeah. Gorbis comes out, which is very threatening when locked into a Fire-type move. That's interesting. Let's see something here. Okay, I guess that's fair. foregoing the just shell smash there, to learn a little bit more about GCC's team, see if they have anything that can really take this, which, I mean, at this point they probably do, right? I imagine Glade, Mega Glade will take a Hydro Pump relatively well. More or less, so. Wigglytuff, maybe. Yeah, Wigglytuff will take one, so good restraint, not just clicking it there immediately without knowing anything, or without knowing everything, right? Plus they have Carnivine in the back, which is kind of dependent on hitting a Power Whip in order to beat Gorbis, but that's definitely not, like, impossible for it, you know? So switching to Jump Left there just to provide a very easy answer to Carnivine. I assume it just clicks up here, because why not? It doesn't really have anything that can, wow, that breaks, really? That's surprising to me. Huh. Okay. So Jump Up isn't actually able to set up on this Carnivine very well, and probably just clicks Acro for the 2-hit. Oh my god, which really isn't a 2-hit. So yeah, Carnivine is able to trade for Jump Left, after which Persian is able to come in and just sort of threaten a pretty strong Hyper Voice, which I think this set is probably the worst of the two that I can get, but it's whatever. Yeah, so now you just kind of hope that Gorbis here can set up and win at some point. Shadow Prowl, oh. Okay. Yeah, it really does depend on whether Shadow Ball is able to kill this Wigglytuff. Or not Shadow Ball, Hydro Pump at +2 is able to kill this Wigglytuff. Because if it... Oh, do you not outspeed even? Yeah, okay, this game is pretty over then. Considering that fact. So, GCC should just be able to win by clicking Fire Blast. Just gotta hope that it's accurate enough. Although, smart on them, just making sure that they don't lose to like an Aqua Jet or anything. This Wigglytuff is probably able to take this on well enough. That crit might have mattered. The crit probably mattered. So yeah, a little bit of a Haxie set as well from GCC. But yeah, those were all the Gen 6 games that were played this week. And then we can just sort of look over how each team did, I guess. We got a tie between Tyranitar's and Mawile, as well as Venusaur and Sableye, meaning that all four of these teams are tied for third place behind Team Glalie, who won 9-3 versus Team Pidgeot, and behind Team Dragapult, which won 7-5 against Kangaskhan. So, yeah. Personally, I played my Week 2 game already, and I was able to beat Zowie, but, you know, still watch the video. But I would say currently I'm probably most, like, scared to play maybe Mirbro or Zoyote. I think, yeah, I'll reveal how they played and how they did whenever I post my Week 2 video. But, yeah, thank you for watching, and I will be back probably sooner rather than later. I'm enjoying sort of covering and looking at tour games like this. So, yeah, bye. Have a good evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you are.